Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddy Playle, joined in the studio with Jimmy Hill and Niall O'Reilly from Paddy Power too. We're going to look back on a cracking festive period. First off Newbury, then we'll go to Leopardstown. We'll open up the floor and see if the lads were their attention was caught by anything at Limerick or Leicester. And then we'll look at a cracking card on New Year's Day and get the midweek selections as well. So stay tuned, plenty to get through. Newbury, as I mentioned, is first port of call and some really nice performances at the Challow hurdle meeting. Let's start with Copperhead then. Just a young horse, Jimmy, but won the Mandarin Chase in the style of a really progressive one. What's his ceiling going to be? Where can you see him ending up?
I think he's got a long way to go yet before he reaches kind of like the top level of handicaps. He's a very exciting young horse, only a 5-year-old, and he won that very nicely. But that wasn't a great running, I thought, of the Mandarin. So he was entitled to win it the way he did, if he is going to be this horse that progresses into a top-class handicapper. But he's got a way to go yet. But all the right attributes: jumps well, stays well. Trained by the right people in the Tizzards, so he could go a long way, but it is a long path yet. Okay,
so wouldn't be getting too carried away with Copperhead then. That Mandarin Chase, historically it's been very, very strong, but these days not as much. Niall, they were talking about the Ladbrokes Trophy. I don't suppose we've got betting for that just yet, but what did you think of Copperhead?
Yeah, he was very impressive. We don't have betting for Ladbrokes Trophy just yet, but he's won that off, 134. That's not, he'll probably go up to about 141. That's not a million miles off what's required to run in the National Hunt Chase this year. He's obviously proven he stays quite well. So I've just put him in there at 20 to 1. It's a pretty open market at the moment. The one that was second to Battle Over Doing, Champagne Classic, currently heads are betting at 7, but that's where I'd probably see him going.
Okay, more of that Champagne Classic and Battle Over Doing in just a little while. The feature, though, at Newbury was the Challow, won by Thyme Hill, and he's a gritty old customer, Niall. I mean, there's going to be argument over the Ballymore or the Albert Bartlett, but to me he looks more of a stayer. What price is he for Cheltenham now?
He's 6 to 1 for the Albert Bartlett, and I think he's 14 for the Ballymore. Yeah, like you said, I thought he was workmanlike rather than impressive in the Challow. He seems to stay really well, so I'd be surprised if they don't go the Albert Bartlett. Like I said, he's 6 to 1. That's probably a bit of value at the moment. I could see him. It looks pretty open enough market at the moment. Not a lot of depth, I should say. And I could see him being short enough in the day, and if he is, he's probably one I'd like to take on. I don't think there's a huge amount of, he's beaten some decent horses, but I'd be surprised if something from Ireland doesn't come over and give him a good race. But look, he's a very nice horse. He stays well. Yeah, he's got a big future ahead of him. He's not one to be massively keen at the back for the festival just yet.
Yeah, I think quite a few people will be sharing that view of being a bit cautious, Jimmy, but he has got the right sort of profile for an Albert Bartlett. Obviously, that bumper form's working out very well, and you need sort of a hard-knocking horse that's been a bit busy, usually not the classiest for the Albert Bartlett, and I guess he's got that experience under his belt now, but maybe his jumping could be a little bit better. We saw again at Newbury how he did just have tendency to sort of go through one or two.
Well, including the last. I think he would have actually won the race quite comfortably if he hadn't messed the last up. I thought it was another good performance. I thought all 3 of his runs this season have been very good. The second horse had won a decent handicap over course and distance the time before. They finished well clear of Enrillo, who himself is a pretty decent horse. I thought it was a good race and a good performance. As I said, he would have won it relatively comfortably if he had jumped the last properly. You mentioned the Albert Bartlett. I mean, he could run in that. I would think if the ground's on the far side at Cheltenham, which it can often be, of course, in March, then that's where we could well see him. But I think Philip Hobbs, this is a horse with plenty of speed. He'd want to keep him, I would think, around about this distance. But of course, the problem is he could end up meeting a horse like Envoy Allen at Cheltenham, which he's beating good horses at the moment, but that's a whole different level. And there are 1 or 2 others from Ireland as well who could trouble him. So yeah, I think that was a good performance, and I think this is probably his best trip. But whether he's a Ballymore winner, I'm not so sure.
Okay, he is a Grade 1 winner now. I mean, ultimately, that's on his sort of resume. Thyme Hill, very likeable performance. It was quite an exciting card at Newbury. You had Mr. Coffee, who was purchased for an awful lot of money, making a winning hurdling debut, and Defi Sacra. I mean, that had to be one of the finishes of the season. A lengthy steward's inquiry after. Any word on anything else you saw at Newbury, Jimmy, before we move on?
No, I mean, I thought a lot of the classier races we had seen earlier in the holiday season, really, Boxing Day and on the Friday. That wasn't a bad Newbury car, but I think those winners probably aren't Cheltenham Festival horses.
Okay.
Most of them.
With that, we'll move on to Leopardstown then, and let's go for a walk down memory lane as Apple's Jade won her third Knight Frank Memorial Hurdle behind us there on the screen. And I couldn't see it coming personally, Niall, could you?
No, I don't know how you could have backed her with any confidence, but the market spoke in her favour. I think she went off 6-4. We laid plenty off her. She was very impressive. He rode her very, very prominently. He was obviously quite confident. I was actually there that day, and the crowd were oohing and ahhing every time she jumped to her right. So going to Cheltenham, that wouldn't bode well for me. She's 6-1 for the mare's hurdle at the moment, and as big as 20-1 for the stayers. So, look, it was really good to see her coming back to her best. She obviously loves Leopardstown, but with Cheltenham in mind, she's not one I'd be backing.
Yeah, she hasn't necessarily brought her best to the table at Cheltenham before, has she, Jimmy?
Oh no, she's run some really good races at Cheltenham. I mean, she's a Cheltenham Festival winner. Let's not forget that. She won the Mayor's Hurdle. She was second in, well, probably one of the best Triumph hurdles I've ever seen. Yeah. So, she has got good festival form. Last year, she was obviously completely off her game in the Champion Hurdle. But I mean, I don't really think that was necessarily to do with the course. She just was completely off her game. And after that, her next 2 or 3 starts, she wasn't herself either. I mean, she's a typical mare Apples, Jade. When she's on song, she is absolutely brilliant. And when she's below par, she runs really, really poorly. So you just can get that sometimes. She's a typical case. She obviously loves Leopardstown, as we saw there. And on her best form, she was entitled to win the way she did. But what sort of form she'll be in at Cheltenham, I don't know. She's very difficult to second guess.
Yeah, as I say, that was her 3rd win in that race, and I think it was her 5th unbeaten at Leopardstown. So although she jumps out to her right a little bit, clearly doesn't impact her that much. Not too sure what the form amounted to with, you know what I mean, Harry in second, but it was great to see her back nevertheless. Excuse me. We'll move on now then to the Savile's Chase, which produced a bit of a surprising result in Delta work, but it was another cracking finish. We've been treated to many of those over the festive period. Just getting the better of Mona Lee, Niall, and Gold Cup aspirations, I guess the dream is alive now again.
Yeah, he was right back to his best. He just seems to have a turn of foot at the end of 3 miles. I think we're 10-1 now from, was he 20-1 before that race, maybe 25-1, but he's 10-1 now. He couldn't really knock his chance. He obviously ran well in the RSA last year. He wouldn't be the pick for me, but yeah, beating Mona Lee ahead, is that really that strong a form going into the Gold Cup? But I suppose it is looking a lot more open after the King George, so I couldn't put anyone off backing him.
Yeah, I must admit, the whole Gold Cup division is a bit muddling now, isn't it? I'm with you. I think it was a really funny race. What did you make of those in behind, Ken Boyne presenting Percy and the likes?
Yeah, I backed Road to respect myself. I thought he was going to come there with a decent chance. Presenting Percy ran okay. The shine's fairly gone off him now. I don't know. I just couldn't really back him with any confidence going into any race. He's not as good as he looked in the RSA, I don't think. Who else did you mention there? Yeah, Ken Boy. Yeah, he shaped okay in return. He'd obviously have a decent chance going back to Cheltenham. I'm sure he'll be out for the Dublin Racing Festival for him. I'm sure he'll show an improved performance. But yeah, look, it was a really exciting race to watch, and Delta Work did it really well. So yeah, it's exciting to follow for the rest of the season.
I mean, beforehand, I was looking at the race, Jimmy. Ken Boy 177, and I think Presenting Percy and Road to Respect were on 169. So even if he was sort of below his best on reappearance, he still should have been winning. I don't know if I can take this form literally at all. The likes of Jets and Mona Lee, does he really stay out that 3 miles? I guess he sort of proved it, but I thought it was a really strange race to get my head around personally. Yeah,
I mean, just 4 lengths separating the first 5 home. I mean, I wasn't expecting that really. So yeah, you could say on form, you've seen stronger renewals with them being so tightly clustered at the end. Personally, as if I was Willie Mullins, I'd be pretty happy with Ken Boy's run. I mean, he looked very rusty to me, very fresh. far too keen. I thought his jumping was a bit all over the place at the start of the race. So to be in there with a chance turning for home and to be beaten under 4 lengths in the end by some pretty decent horses, you know, Monolly, Road to Respect and the winner Delta Work, he's going to come on bundles for that. And, you know, the things are working out for Kemboy in terms of form. I mean, the horse that he stuffed at Aintree, Clan des Obeaux, has just won the King George by 21 lengths. He looks to be the best of the British contenders. If I were Willie Mullins, I'd be pretty happy to have him and the Gold Cup winner album photo in my yard. I think he holds the aces in the Gold Cup picture at the moment.
Yeah, I think, you know, I could be being a bit pessimistic there. As a lot of Willie Mullins' horses first time out, they do seem to sort of blow up a little bit and come on for the run. Allaho looked one of those. He was second to Easy Game. And while we're mentioning the rest of the card, the Boss's Oscar put forward his Albert Bartlett claims as well. Any prices on that pair, Niall? Just to, not to put you in hot water last minute, but those might be of interest for the Cheltenham Festival for some of our listeners.
Yeah, the Boss's Oscar was put in at 33-1 for the Albert Bartlett, which is fair enough price. He did it well. What was the other one you mentioned, Maddie? Sorry.
Easy Game beating Allaho.
Where would he be? RSA maybe?
Yeah, it could be. Or the, I think it's the Marsh Chase now, isn't it? The old JLT.
I think he was put in at 20-1. I just can't find it here at the moment, but we'll say 20-1.
Okay, we'll say 20-1. And what do we make of the action elsewhere? Sumos Novius won at Limerick. We had Itchy Feet, who made a nice chasing debut at Leicester. Before we get on to some of the stuff yesterday, Jimmy, anything catch your eye in those lesser races?
Not really in the lesser races. So we mentioned Battle Over Doyen.
We're going to get to him now. We might as well crack on.
I think that's important because that was a good win for him. He's a real proper chasing type. I'm not quite sure whether he's living up to the hype, but he is a real nice looking chasing sort, and I would think he'll definitely be a contender for the RSA in March.
Champagne Classic finishing second to him then in that novice chase. There were quite a few late non-runners carefully selected, and Manila Indo, of course, were big fancies for a lot of people in that race. Now, Battle Over Doyen, he's one of these Irish horses who the public seem to have really latched onto, and he keeps winning, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, he looks an out-and-out stayer, doesn't he? I think we're 12-1 for the National Hunt Chase and 8-1 for the RSA. He probably didn't achieve a huge amount, but Champagne Classic is a decent horse himself. So, yeah, I was quite impressed. He doesn't really jump off the page watching him, but yeah, it's hard to really knock what he's done so far. He's a very good jumper. Yeah,
some of these sort of stays, they don't tend to be that flashy, but Battle Over Doyen, yeah, he's going to be in the mix for those staying novice chases, you'd have to think. Now, another bubble was burst. We've seen quite a few surprises over this period, but Classical Dream made a mid-race mistake. That put paid to his chance in the Matheson Hurdle, eventually won by Sharjah. Jimmy, a horse that maybe we've underestimated a little bit, was out of the Champion Hurdle last season through no fault of his own. He was brought down, I think, wasn't he, by Bouverdaire, and he's got some turn of foot at the end, hasn't he?
Oh, he has got some turn of foot. And when he gets some decent ground, you know, he's a very effective tool. I mean, he needs things to fall his way, I think. He likes to come from off the pace and show that change of pace, but particularly on those sharper tracks. He's a very classy horse. I don't think the form was that great. Petit Mouchoir finishing second, but he did the job very nicely.
Yeah, he did. Looking forward to the Champion Hurdle then. I mean, we saw Epatante put her hat into the ring in the Christmas Hurdle. Classical Dream, he was disappointing. Coeur Sublime, I think they might be investigating his wind now. He was a little disappointing behind Sharjah. I mean, who would your money be on at this stage? We've not seen the other horse Willie Mullins had, I can't remember his name now, Morgiana winner, Saldier, that's the one. We've not seen him, obviously he's been sidelined through injury. Where would your sort of, are you nailing your colours to the mast at this stage?
I don't want to nail my colours to the mast at this stage because it is a very murky picture. You know, that race was meant to show up Classical Dream at his best. Coeur Sublime, this young improving horse meant to be coming through challenging him. Classical Dream was terribly ran no race at all. That was an awful mistake he made. Never looked like getting back into the race. Coeur Sublime looks like he's got a problem now. So, you know, all these young contenders, I mean, they keep falling by the wayside. The one obviously over the Christmas period who has really enhanced her reputation has been Epatante. And I have to say I'm surprised, given the situation where so many horses in Champion Hurdle contenders aren't running well, that she's not actually a bit shorter in the market, because that was a really impressive performance she put up at Kempton. And I've heard one or two people saying, well, yeah, but it wasn't a very good race for a Christmas Hurdle. I mean, well, I'd like to know what better trial we've seen so far this season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a strong trial. It was a strong run race. I mean, solid horses in behind, and she absolutely laughed at them. So I think she's, on that run, definitely entitled to be a decent favourite. Obviously, you're concerned about her performance at the festival last season, but on that showing, she's all class.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think about 4-1 mark's quite big given the other disappointments that have happened, but maybe we're getting a bit too carried away.
Given the connections as well, Jade
Yeah.
McManus, Nikki Henderson,
Very well
Barry
backed,
Geraghty.
wasn't
I mean,
she?
you know, that is, you know, champion hurdle winning material if you look at those connections. So she's rightly favourite for me.
Yeah, precisely, and she gets that mare's allowance as well, which is integral in that champion hurdle. Niall, what do you think of Sharjah? Just going back to him.
Yeah, I was quite impressed. That was just his. I think the race fell apart a little bit. Then he beat Petit Mouchoir, whatever lengths. Going to a champion hurdle, I think it's just a different ball game. I know it doesn't look the strongest. We're 8 from 25 to 1 since that win, and that just shows you how kind of weak the race might be this year. It wouldn't be the one for me. Epatante, just like you were saying, we changed her price yesterday after Classical Dream was so disappointing. We went 5-2 from 7-2, so she's a pretty strong favourite at the moment. She's one that, again, I'd be nearly hoping she's short enough in the day because she's one I'll definitely want to lay. I think she might be better on a flat track. Obviously, she disappointed at Cheltenham last year. So, yeah, look, she definitely deserves to head the market at the moment, but there's just that chance that the track mightn't suit, and that's why I'd probably be willing to take her on. The one I'm quite keen on is Pentland Hills. I know he hasn't run since he ran behind Call Me Lord, but he's just the one I'd probably back at the prices. He's about 7-1 at the moment.
Yeah, he was definitely one to take out of that international, wasn't he, Pentland Hills? And he beat Curse Sublime, whether he ran his race yesterday or not. He's still got that in his locker. We have today's paper in front of us here, and on front of it is that wonderful chase at Doncaster yesterday. 3 fantastic mares fighting out the finish, and we've got to give a word to Lady Buttons before we go for a break. Just a lovely story, this, Jimmy, and I think it's really resonated with a lot of people because these days the big connections can dominate in the big races, and she's, you know, Phil Kirby and Tommy Dowson, they're a great team and they've done a wonderful job with her.
Yeah, she's a fantastic mare. Great success story. I mean, you know, she's just improved and improved and improved. I thought that was her best performance earlier in the week, and that race was fantastic. It was one of the races of the season, one of the finishes of the season. The Racing Post ran a feature before Christmas about great finishes of the decade. I mean, that would be right up there from what we've seen. I mean, 3 horses, 3 top quality mares going at it after the last. Great stuff.
Yeah, and there have been some sort of knockers of the mares division in recent times, but this sort of bodes very, very well for it, doesn't it, Niall?
Yeah, definitely. It was a cracking race. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant ride, timed to perfection. But yeah, she's a quality mare. I think we're 16 from 20 for the mare's hurdle, which is the only real race she can go for at the festival. But yeah, brilliant race yesterday, and yeah, exciting season ahead for her.
Yeah, I think she might well go back to Doncaster for a hurdle next. She mixes it in all sorts of company, doesn't she, Lady Buttons? And on that, we'll take a quick break before we look ahead to a brilliant New Year's Day card at Cheltenham.
What's my horse's handicap? The fact that you're backing him? Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only, 1 per customer. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast then, and we're going to get stuck into Cheltenham's New Year's Day card now, starting off with a race which has produced some really smart horses in recent years. It's the 125, the Paddy Power Broken Resolutions Already Dipper Novices Chase, a Grade 2. And we're going to see one of the rising stars of the Novice Chase division here in Champ, winner of a Grade 2 at Newbury last time. Jimmy is a bit of a Marmite horse. Some people really love him, some people aren't fully convinced by him just yet. But I believe you're a pretty big fan of this fella, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, no, I think he's a class act. I mean, some people will think he's a bit of a hype horse. Talk about horses like, we mentioned Battle Over Doyen just a minute ago, and Chacun Pour Soi, who have been running fine, but maybe not, if you look at their starting prices, maybe not quite living up to the hype with their performances. I think from what we've seen in his 2 victories at Newbury this season, Champ is living up to the hype. I thought his jumping, apart from one bad mistake last time out, has been pretty good. And he's been beating some decent horses pretty easily. He looks to have a real Rolls Royce of an engine. I think he will improve for going up to 3 miles. This is 2.5, but I think this is important course experience that he gets over fences.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how he goes around Cheltenham. but I would expect him to be running in the RSA at the festival. I think he'll take all the beating now.
Okay, interesting target, given he does show quite a lot of speed. What have you made of him so far now? Which camp are you in, for or against?
Oh, I think he's been very impressive, yeah. I thought he did so well to win at Newbury. Black Op got a relatively easy lead that day, and I thought he did really well to mow him down. Black Op's obviously gone out and run well at Cheltenham in the Cups there. This race, we're 4-7 at the moment. It could cut up a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going to run. The only one that looked likely to run against him is Midnight Shadow, that I'm fairly sure is going to run. Like the likes of Champagne Court, who would put up a decent fight. I don't think he's going to run personally. But yeah, look, I think he'll take a massive amount of beating. As James said, I think 3 miles is going to be his trip. So the RSA would look the race for him.
Okay, well, certainly we'll learn a lot more about Champ. It is interesting that you mentioned Midnight Shadow. He's rated 150, Champ 152, and obviously Champ's got to give him £5. So on the ratings, maybe it'll be a bit more of a close run thing than we think, or maybe not. We'll see. The 2 o'clock is the Paddy Power Handicap Chase, a Grade 3, again over the 2.5 miles, and really competitive race this is set to be. Kalashnikov. What an effort last time out at Newbury, just getting done in the closing stages by Old Grangewood. Again, a horse that a lot of people have warmed to. Amy Murphy's done a fantastic job navigating his career so far. Have we got any betting on this one at this stage, Niall?
Yeah, we do. Kalashnikov is our 7-2 favourite. Old Grangewood 6-1. Magic Saint 6-1. Happy Diva 8-1. Sipage 8-1. Mr. Whitaker 8-1. St. Calvin's 8-1 and 10-1 Bar.
Yeah, a couple of horses I'm really looking forward to seeing in this. Jimmy Kalashnikov, obviously he's got quite a high rating, so it's going to, it's going to shape up into an interesting race with a lot of horses getting in off low weights. But what do you make of him first off? Do you think he should have won that at Newbury last time?
I thought he was very unfortunate not to win at Newbury. I think he lost a shoe as well, didn't he? So no, it was a hell of an effort. I'm a big fan of Kalashnikov. I think he's a great horse, and I think this is probably his distance as well now.
What do you think of the campaign going over the handicap route as opposed to graded races? Do you think that's...
I think starting off in the handicap route's the right way to go, yeah. This will be tough, though. I mean, he's got top weight, now rated in the 160s. I mean, not many horses can do that, win a big handicap, especially around Cheltenham, rated that highly, carrying top weight. So I've had to... much as I love him, look lower down the weights, and 1 or 2 at bigger prices take my eye. One is Bally Hill, who has a great record in this race. He won it as a novice 2 years ago. He was finished 4th, close up 4th last year off 144. He's now rated 137. Hasn't been in the best of form this season, but it is eye-catching, his mark, and that he's got such a good record at Cheltenham, and in particular in this race. And just the other one, if it were to come over, who would interest me is Expatriate, if he makes a trip over from Ireland. Novice, he was third to Battle Over Doyen at Punchestown last time out. He's had 6 runs over fences. I think that's just about enough experience for a race of this nature. And interesting, he's got top-class form at Cheltenham a couple of seasons ago over hurdles when he finished 4th behind Defi de Soy in the Triumph. So around about the 146 mark, he could be interesting too.
Yeah, 2 that I was interested in, they are big favourites of mine, so you probably know this already, but Mr. Whitaker, we've not seen him yet this season. I still think there's probably room for improvement in him. And Lawler, again, disappointing so far this season, but his mark is dropping, and if he can return to the form that saw him win that Arkle trial here last season, then he'd definitely be of interest. Niall, I mean, Kalashnikov, your thoughts on him and the rest of the field? Because there's some nice horses in there, the likes of Sepage and Magic Saint too.
Yeah, Kalashnikov, it does look a very high mark. Like, he's a horse I like, but 161 conceding chunks away to some useful horses. I don't know if his form is really there from last year either. Yarkle obviously looks weak. I know he was going well in that when he's brought down. The beating of Lebago off doesn't look as good as it did then. 161 just looks a high enough mark for the price he is at the moment. I actually quite like one here. Court Marybelle for Nigel Twiston-Davis. Now I'm fairly certain he's going to run. He was 6th last time in the Bet Victor, and that run actually looks a lot better now because the form's actually working out quite well with Slate House going on to win at Kempton. Before that, he was 2nd and Lost in Translation, and last year he won a decent race at the track, beating LeBroy. He's just interesting. I think the ground could be quite decent for this time of year. Like, it might just be good to soft in places, which will suit him. Like, on ground that's good to soft or better, he's been very consistent. He's won 3 times, been 2nd twice, 3rd once, and then 5th in a bumper early in his career. Like, all his bad runs have tended to come on worse ground than it's going to be. So I think he looks very well handicapped at 145. The other one that James mentioned, Expatriate, I thought that was interesting as well. But the more I looked at it, the more I thought maybe they just entered it to see what type of mark he'd get with a view to the festival. He might run, but I'd be surprised if they come over for this race, given the amount of race in Ireland he could run in. But yeah, Court Maryville definitely one for me. He's 10-1 at the moment. Nigel Twiston-Davis has won 3 of the last 6 renewals, so he obviously targets the race. And yeah, I think he looks decent value.
Fantastic. Yeah, you'd expect him to turn up, like you said, with his trainer. I think he won the Dipper last year, didn't he? So same card, you'd be expecting a big run from him. We'll move on to the 235, which is again sponsored by Paddy Power. It's the 68 Sleeps to Cheltenham Handicap Hurdle. And Ollie Murphy, we had an update on some of his horses. He was in our jury as well. And he thinks that Scandyberg is going to run a big race here. And I believe he heads a lot in the markets, Niall.
Yeah, he's second favourite in our market. Sorry, he's 7-1. Beware the Bear and Might Bite are currently 6-1 joint favourites. Scandyberg 7-1, one for the team 7-1, Rapper 7-1, and then 8-1 Bar.
Yeah, what do you make of Might Bite going for this, or do you think he's going to go in the rail keel, Niall?
I think he's going to go on the rail keel. It's funny, I actually priced this up anti-post, and I thought he was going to be given a much lower hurdles mark. I thought he was going to get something in the 140s. Because that's what he was actually the racing post was showing his rating over hurdles. He's obviously been given 160, so it looks a stiff task. I'd be surprised if they actually run here now. Though he is jocked up at the moment on racing post. I think he'd probably run the rail keel, but I wouldn't be certain either way. The one I quite like one called Mason Jar for Dr. Newland. He's a 6-year-old. I think 3 starts back. He beat that Dorking boy that won at Sandown on Saturday. He beat him 7 lengths. He was disappointing after that because they ran him too soon. But then he came back to form at Aintree when he was 3rd. This step up to 3 miles will definitely suit him, and he's got a good claimer in Killian Leonard taking off 7. So that's Mason Jar for me.
Okay, yeah, Richard Newland, he does get some good winners at Cheltenham, doesn't he? Jimmy, what do you think of this race? Some progressive horses in there?
Well, especially Scandyberg. I mean, I think that's very interesting that what Ollie Murphy said in our Monday jury. I think he's definitely progressive. He's won 2 of his last 3 starts. Very young horse. If Might Bite does run, I think he gets in here dead on 10 stone. So he couldn't really have a lighter weight. And yeah, he's gone up, I think, about £6 or £7 for his last win, but he is going in the right direction. And Ollie Murphy, he does get these ones to improve quite a bit. Yeah,
for sure. He's got a nice profile, hasn't he? Scandyberg, winner last time out. The 310 is that Dawn Engineering Railkill Hurdler Grade 2. One of the features on New Year's Day, again over the 2.5 miles, and some interesting horses in here, as we've said, Might Bite and also Janica and Top Notch. Probably both aren't going to run in this same race, but given their ownership, but some very interesting ones. Roxana, the Mayor's Hurdle winner, and Emiton could return as well. So potential to shake up the Stayers Hurdle market. Niall, any betting at this stage?
Yeah, we're 9-4 Janica, 7-2 Top Notch, William Henry 4-1, Emitom 9-2, Roxana 5-1, Somerville Boys 6-1, Might Bite 13-2, and then 20-1 Bar.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Janica on his chase form. Jimmy, tell us a bit more.
Yes, well, he's rated as high as 165 on his chase form, and yet he's one of the highest rated here. Off a mark of 158 over hurdles, so that gives you some idea that in terms of ability, he's the one to beat. And look, I mean, him and Top Notch are in the same ownership. Looks like Janica's are more likely to run at the moment because he's been jocked up. I just think it's an interesting decision if he does run here. Nicky Henderson sending him back over hurdles. Young, improving horse, lots of ability, lots of good course form too. So Janica for me. Yeah,
definitely finished behind Stira Delac in a couple of those valuable handicaps, didn't he, Janica? I mean, it's a tough division, isn't it, Niall? I'm sort of hoping that something can really come forward and stamp its class on this race. And I guess Emiton would be the obvious one for a lot of people. Good novice form from last season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Maddy. He's the only one I could get excited about backing is Emiton, as in with a view to the rest of the season. But we're 9-2 at the moment. Janica, I don't really like backing horses coming back from or chasing to hurling in these type of races, particularly at the price he is. Although he probably deserves to be that price. Emiton had good form last season, was second the champ, won a couple of decent novice hurdles. He beat that Lisnagar Oscar in the Bridle, who was a decent novice hurdler. Yeah, he's got a bit to find with Janica, but he's the one in the field that I think could find the improvement to get involved. He's probably the one I'd back.
Okay, so we're all looking forward very much to Cheltenham's New Year's Day card. We will take another quick break now before we have a look at some of the other action midweek.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. Finding pastel de natas in a London cafe? Special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games? Not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18 plus BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to the final instalment of this Monday Postcast, and as promised we're going to take a look at the meetings midweek. Cheltenham, of course, will be a main port of call for a lot of people, but also good action elsewhere. Jimmy, we're going to get your next bests and your naps. The first one first up. Where have you been looking at this week?
Well, I mean, there's lots of meetings on Wednesday, New Year's Day, so plenty of horses were interesting me for that day. Not least Aristo de Plaisir, who could run in the big handicap hurdle at Musselburgh 2:15 on New Year's Day.
Yep.
Just turned 10, and admittedly this does look quite a strong entry, but he's interesting because he's shown enough this term to suggest that the ability of old is still there. He's now down to a mark of 121. He ran very well off 124 two starts back, so he's not badly treated. And he won this way back in 2016 off a mark of 145.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think he's worth a little bit each way in the 2:15 at Musselburgh. And at Catterick in the 3:20, Emma Beog, she returned to form on her reappearance last time, nosed out at Market Raisin. 12 months ago, she absolutely dotted up on her first start in Britain off £6 lower. So she's got fair claims. If she improves on a return effort, I think she's got a good chance. And just one horse who's running on Friday in the 1:55 at Musselburgh, Hassab, put up a personal best Racing Post rating when second at Catterick last time. He's just £2 higher for that and for his victory at Market Raisin last April. This is a pretty similar track to Market Raisin Musselburgh, so I think it will suit him, as will the drying ground and the yards in form. So Hassab in the 1:55 at Musselburgh.
Brilliant, nicely summed up, and all before the nap as well. Niall, I know you're very keen on one, but you have been having a look at some of the meetings this week, and who took your eye, who's not your nap?
Yeah, I've two for the notebook, Maddy. A little Musselburgh double. In the 140 Musselburgh on New Year's Day, fixed rate. I just seen he was entered. He put up a massive performance last time on reappearance after a long break, chasing home the very progressive young chaser, Sammy Bill. He's a very good jumper, and he seems to have a really good attitude. And I think this type of high track will really suit him if he gets loose in the front. And then in the 2:15 Musselburgh, Norman, I actually backed him to win this race last year, and I see he returns here off an £8 higher mark. But he's been cracking form in the all-weather. He won his last race at Kempton. And this doesn't look the strongest race. After he won last year off 120, he was then upped in grade into grade 2 and grade 1 novice hurdles, where he had no chance. So this is much more his grade of 128. And if he's a decent price, I'll definitely back him.
Fantastic. Let's get those all-important naps now.
This will not be beaten.
Before we came on air, Niall was adamant that this was a winner. So go on, Niall, take it away.
Yeah, the horse it's running tomorrow in the 2:45 Linkfield. It's called Tipperary Jack. I've just been waiting for it to run since it won at Kempton last time. It actually put up an exceptional performance on the clock for a horse that was rated 78. In fact, he ran the fastest 7 furlongs run at Kempton this year, which is unusual for a Class 4 handicap winner. Not only that, because sometimes you can run a fast time if the race is run to suit. He actually put up a very good section as well, coming from towards the back in a race that wasn't run to suit. So it's really a top class performance. Like, he was given £5 for that run. If I was the handicap myself, I'd probably have given him £15. So I think he could have at least 10 in hand. I'll see what price he is tomorrow. I'd be 6-4 or so. Haven't had a quick look at the race, but if he's any bigger than that, yeah, I'll be hammering him out of it.
Wonderful. That's exactly what we like to hear. Hopefully he can be a winner for now then. And Jimmy?
Yes, I got one at New Year's Day, again, on New Year's Day. Storm Goddess in the 1:45 at Fakenham. She had some pretty decent pieces of form last season relative to her mark this time. She was a close second to the now 129 rated Mega Yates, and also ran very well behind Humble Hero, who's been rated in the 130s. Storm Goddess is racing here off 118. She hasn't run badly in her 2 starts this season. She was well beaten in the Jerry Fielden last time behind Epatante, no less. I think she found that race far too hot. This is a much easier contest, and off that mark, I think she's got a really good chance.
Okay, brilliant. So although we've got that action at Cheltenham on New Year's Day, plenty other race meetings to get stuck into. So make sure you give those a look. That's all we've got time for today. And the lads will be back on Friday with all their selections for the weekend's action. So don't miss that.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.